Everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going over the differences between my first and second pregnancy. That is all I've had so far. Hopefully we have a lot in the future, but we will see how that goes. Before we get into this, please subscribe, thumbs up, and let's get into this video. So, 2 different pregnancies. We're like exactly 2 years apart, besides like 2 weeks. So it felt like deja vu because everything was like going, besides like 2 weeks off, was like the exact same. We did not plan it that way. God was like, here you go. Like, we wanted our babies both times. But to like time it that perfect, I was like, when it happened, when that month came, I was like, you know what, Logan? We're gonna get pregnant. God has a sense of humor, and he's gonna have us both. We're gonna have another March baby. I just know it. So that's how it happened. So it's easy to like track a lot of like the same things, especially I can remember because of like the timing and all that. But first we'll kind of go over. I have like 12 different points, and we'll see how we cover in those. If I mix them around or whatever, I probably won't say like 1, 2, 3, 4, but we're just gonna go through them. First trimester sickness. So with my first, I was really sick. It was hard for me to get any kind of foods down. I ended up making a lot of broth, eating a lot of like rice noodles, and that's how I got a lot. That was kind of like I would get that and down, and then I was able to get like more things down. Just really sick. Like I got to the point where I got so behind on eating, it was just hard to catch up. I wasn't feeling good, not eating enough. Did not feel that great, and not a lot of protein. Because at the time I didn't realize how like important protein was, and just didn't get enough protein, and I think it just made it a whole lot worse. So going into my second, I was like, I do not want this pregnancy to be as bad. So I prepped a lot. I had made, I freeze-dried a whole lot of fruit into powders, so I could make smoothies. I had other different kind of like brothy soups. I got a bunch of like the ramens from Costco. I really like those. Maybe they're not like the best thing, but they're better than normal ramen. And then just kind of like had other kind of easier meals. I had some soups in the freezer, different things, because I kept sensing I was gonna get pregnant soon. We had been kind of trying, and so I was kind of all ready for that. So just different things like that going into my second. And I would say my second was a whole lot better than my first. I was still I got really sick at the beginning. We had set up like our foam camping mattress in our living room so I could lay down, I could work, and then still take care of our first son that way. And honestly, at first, I would say I got sicker than with my first, and I think that was, at the time I was still breastfeeding, and since I was so sick, I was having a hard time getting up, and we'd started trying to give him some solids. He wasn't the biggest fan, but I realized by not getting up, he was drinking more milk, and I was taking more out of me, and then I kept getting sicker and sicker. So I realized that if I made the effort to make sure he had food, then it made it easier for me to be able to not have to eat quite as much, or be able to it was just helping me feel better over time. He then eventually, we cut down a lot of his feedings, and then I dried up and all that. But so I was a lot sicker at the very beginning, but kind of figuring that out, it ended up being not quite as bad. Like I was still really sick and nauseous, but it was not like to the point where I felt so like drained as my first. So I was able to just like had more easy foods on hand, more things that were just easy to eat and keep down that way. That helped out a lot. I also kind of figured out other things that with nausea, like B6, which I know, or it's a B12 complex. So I started taking that too, which helped. I had some different like ginger candies. My first, I tried different, I think some ginger candies, but I just like, got sick of the flavor. So my second, when I interviewed the midwife, my first midwife, she actually brought me over these like mango-y ones, and so it didn't taste like ginger, so then I could take it down or get them down, which was really, really nice. So different changes that way that really helped out. But as I mentioned before, my first one I didn't have a lot of protein. I didn't understand the importance of it. At the time, eggs were so pricey with my first that we just weren't even buying eggs. And so with my second, things have changed. We now have our farm fresh eggs, which have been so good. I've been making sure that I get protein in every single meal. And I think that also helped things out a lot for my first trimester. My supplements have changed up a lot. I feel like I understand a lot more about supplements, what your body needs. A lot of protein. For my first and my second, first, I felt like I knew quite a bit at the time because I'd been working with a more natural doctor and stuff and had a lot of different stuff. But I didn't know exactly as much about like in pregnancy. And I learned a lot in my first, and so as my second, I already had here's my regimen. I had a list of stuff I wanted to add with it. And I think I like filmed that video and posted it. Now, part of me wonders, I know there was a video that I filmed and it just never got, like I totally just lost the footage. And I don't know if it was that one or a different one. But if you guys are interested, I can go over what my supplement routine was during pregnancy. And I even compare it to now, so just let me know, you guys. Do you guys want to see that? Do you guys? Let me know. So a lot more protein, like with the protein, I was taking the beef liver, a bunch of other stuff, like different things I took, and it was just so much better. Trying to make sure I got everything in. For me, one thing I do is beginning of pregnancy, even before I start taking a prenatal, as much as I can. It's so hard for me to get anything down first trimester, but usually then second trimester when I'm getting better at like taking everything, I end up not taking a prenatal. I take a lot of just other stuff, so prenatals for me is like pretty much pre-pregnancy and then the beginning of pregnancy. Just how I do. I try to get a lot more like exercise, movement. Going in my first my second pregnancy, I was going on daily walks. And when I got really sick, I couldn't get those in anymore, and I just didn't feel good enough. But kind of once I got out of the first trimester and into the second, we were moving, so I was up on my feet a lot, getting a lot done, which was good, but it also like wore me out a whole lot. So that was kind of a downfall, but definitely a lot more movement, and it felt a lot better to be doing that. But even with that movement, with everything I did, it was, and then probably the part of this is because by like the second trimester, I was so tired that by the third, and we'd moved in, I was so exhausted that I just rested a whole lot more, and so I felt like I lost a lot of like flexibility, slash like balance, and just like muscle mass from all that. So I was doing a lot better with my second pregnancy until the end. It was so rough. So if I was doing it again, I would really not try to move while pregnant. Now that's not always something you can count on. But that would be my hope. Monitoring. I was a lot more in tune with this second pregnancy than with my first. My second, I knew there was stuff you could deny, and I really never needed to really deny much because that midwife, she didn't even suggest things, anything, and so it wasn't like, oh, I need to do this or that. May not suggest, she didn't really like push, neither midwife really pushed anything, but I just said, nah, I don't want to do it, and it was fine. But there were still things that like she just did, and I didn't realize you could say no. So going into my second, I was just like, there was a lot I just wanted hands off, especially like after my second trimester. I just stopped a lot of things. At beginning of, so through my first pregnancy, we used a Doppler every single appointment, checked in, she checked my belly, measured it, and all that. Cool, great, that stuff's all fine. But going into my second, I was like, I'm not really feeling this. Both only, well, I guess my first pregnancy, I got 2 ultrasounds. There was your 20-week anatomy scan, and then we got one at the end. Second pregnancy, we only got the 20-week anatomy scan, and that was it. But I was like, I'd been reading up on stuff and just wasn't feeling the greatest about even the Doppler, because I've heard that like a minute with a Doppler is equivalent to like an hour of the ultrasound. So it's almost better to do ultrasound than a Doppler sort of thing. And I just didn't feel like it really was giving me any information that I really just didn't already know. I used it like the first trimester, and then like, so for any of those appointments. And after my ultrasound, I was like, no, you know, I can feel my baby. I know my baby's moving. Hearing the heart rate for me wasn't super important. Now, maybe that's different for you guys. But I felt like I was really in tune with my baby, how everything was moving, that I just didn't really need to. So after my second, my midwife really wasn't measuring my belly a whole lot. But yeah, we didn't measure my belly. There wasn't any, I think just there was one time after the ultrasound, because my baby was breached during the ultrasound, and like right after that, or a couple weeks after, they checked just one time with my belly, and we figured out the baby's head was head down. And after that, we didn't check again. Didn't do Doppler, didn't have anyone touch my belly, didn't have any kind of monitoring that way. It was really just my midwife trusted me. I was really in tune with my body. I trusted myself, and I felt a lot of peace about things. So I didn't feel like we needed to be checking anything. I was never checked or anything, as I mentioned in birth video. Once they checked how far dilated I was in labor, and that was like at the very, very end. But besides that, I was not checked or any of that. So I just really trusted my body on where it was, what it needed to do, and all that. One thing is, both my boys during the anatomy scan, they were breached. And my first, even after weeks later, he was still breached. So I ended up manually going, when I was taking a shower that night, I talked to him. I known where his head was, and I just kind of helped just with my hands. I just like had one hand on his butt and one hand on his head, and just slowly turned him. Just slowly and kind of just turned. I would do a little bit, and then I re-grab, and I would do that. And I was able to just move him that way, and he stayed that way for the rest of pregnancy. Second one, again, he just did it by himself, so I didn't need to check any of that. Second one, I put here more grounding, but I really don't know if actually, I didn't know. The second one I grounded more, but not quite as much as I wish I would have. Than I did with my, definitely with my first. My first, I wasn't into a lot of grounding. Second, I was in a lot more, so I guess I did some more grounding with him. Not quite as much as I wish I could do. I wish I'd do a lot more, but we'll work on that. Yeah, second one, I was more in tune with what was going on. I feel like my second, I communicated, or my first son, I communicated a lot more, talked to him a lot more. My second, it was a lot harder to do that, but I felt more in tune of where he was at, his health, and kind of what I needed to do. Overall, I was a lot more in tune with my body with my second, because I remember I was having some weird symptoms, looking up online what it could be, and there was a couple stuff. I didn't really feel like it was like the extreme bad things, because I wasn't having the other symptoms. But as I was researching on that, I was like, I have low iron. And like a week before, my midwife had drawn my blood. I do like the blood test a lot. I know some people don't do that, but I like the blood test. I like looked up all that. And I was already taking beef liver, but it wasn't quite enough. So I ordered some iron supplements. I also started taking some orange juice every day, doing chlorophyll too, and with my orange juice. And I started doing that, and I just texted my midwife. I said, hey, like, I'm having some symptoms. I'm gonna have low iron. I said, I know that's just gonna be it already. And she literally gotten the results back that morning, and she sent them, she's like, yep, you're right. You have low iron. And it was also low on, like, I think D3 or something, some other thing. So I had to have some more of that. But it was, for me, it was really cool because I already sensed it. I already knew something was up and I could figure that out myself, which was really nice. My first, I might have mentioned this, I forget. My memory is like, there's definitely mom brain. My first, I prepped in a lot of different ways. My second, I watched pretty much every single like birth video I could get my hand on out there. Everyone on YouTube, I just kept watching one, finding every single one I could find, birth videos, birth stories, going over them, especially kind of any like home birth, not hospital as much, but just home births mainly. That was my big thing I focused on, as well as like podcasts, and just kind of hearing not just like stories that were on podcasts, but I was also like really into finding different things, like if you had this problem, how do you fix it, and just so I was very aware of like, okay, if this happened, if my baby's breech, if there's a cord, what do you do? And they're going all over that, because my goal for this birth was to have it very hands-off, not my midwife not having to do a lot, and that I could just do as much as I could. That my midwife was there if anything was bad, but just be able to kind of figure that out, and it really helped because like I didn't have any big complications, not a lot of problems. I did bleed quite a bit, and I've mentioned that before, and I'm gonna improve, and I have plans for my second. Yeah, hopefully this helps. I know every different birth is different in every situation, and even mine, like pregnancies and births, were like totally different from each other, but both beautiful in their own way. So hopefully this was like a good, fun video for you guys to kind of see the differences between both. But yeah, if you guys liked it, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, share with a couple friends, and hopefully we'll see you guys again next week. Have a great day, great night. God bless.